Good evening, everybody. Tonight we have Ella here to interview. Ella, you are 15, is that correct?
Yes, that is right.
Tell us, what was life like before your father sent you off to finishing school?
Well, life was great with Mandy and Mother. Father was typically away, which was fine. He and I didn't get along too well. Like I said, I had a perfect life. That is until Mother got sick and passed away.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear about that. Did your father have to come home then, since your mother was no longer with you?
Yes, he came home quickly, but he didn't stay for too long. He wasn't very upset about the loss of Mother and only seemed to care about the money. That made me very angry with him.
I heard that you had been cursed ever since birth. Is that true, or is that just a rumor?
Unfortunately, that is true. Lucinda, the fairy who put a curse on me, thought it was a gift, but it was actually a curse.
What was that gift? Or curse, should I say?
It was the gift of obedience. However, it wasn't a gift because whenever someone told me to do something, I had to obey or else I would start to shake and feel really sick. It didn't matter if the command was good or evil, I still had to obey. As soon as I obeyed, I felt better instantly. You can see how this is a curse, definitely not a gift.
Yes, of course. That would be very difficult to deal with. How did it feel when your own father wanted to send you miles away to a finishing school?
Of course, I didn't want to leave my home just to learn how to sing, sew, and sit up properly. I just wanted to stay with Mandy, but Father ordered me to go, and because of my curse of obedience, I had to leave.
That's horrible. Would you consider that the beginning of your adventure?
I would definitely say that my father's orders set me on my way to a new life. However, I don't think that my actual adventure started right there.
Did you have someone to guide you through the harshness of your curse and through your mother's tragic death?
Yes, I did. I was very grateful to have Mandy, our cook, to help me and give me advice. She was always there for me and she understood me. I later found out that she was my fairy godmother.
Oh wow, that must have been a huge surprise. Was there any particular item that helped you go on your journeys or something that was sentimental to you?
Yes, I did. At first, my mother's necklace, but sadly that was taken away from me by Hattie. Later, when I went to finishing school, Mandy gave me an enchanted book. It allowed me to keep in contact with Mandy and whatever was going on around me.
Wow, that must have been very helpful. You mentioned that it was enchanted. How so?
Well, I could read letters that were written for others. Also, the book provided me with any story I wanted to read. After a while, I learned that when different people looked at the book, they saw different letters and stories than I did.
That sounds truly amazing. That was a great gift for Mandy. When do you think your journey actually began?
I think that my adventure didn't really begin until I stepped foot into the carriage with Olive and Hattie. It was the moment when I realized that there was no going back home.
I see. Were you nervous when you got into the carriage?
Yes, I was very nervous to be leaving Mandy and home. I didn't know what would become of me and my powers at finishing school.
I can't imagine that feeling. That must have taken a good amount of courage to get into that carriage.
It certainly did.
Good evening, Olive and Hattie. We have you here today to get a few of your opinions on some topics. Let's start with you, Hattie. What did you think when you saw Ella for the first time?
Well, I thought she was a wonderful girl, full of potential. I also quickly figured out that she had to obey whatever I told her to. I wasn't sure why, I just knew that she did. That's how I got this necklace.
Yes, Hattie, you knew how to make her do anything you wanted, and you refused to tell me.
I see that's a very sore spot. Let's move on, shall we? Let's bring in our next guest, Mom Olga. Hello, Mom Olga. I have just a few questions for you. What did you think of Ella when you first saw her?
Well, I first met Ella right after her mom died. Such a poor, unfortunate child. I knew that Sir Peter would eventually send her off with my delightful girls to finishing school. She needed me.
Well, that was very kind of you. Why did you think that Ella needed to go to finishing school?
Well, for starters, I was almost sure that the child couldn't sew a single stitch just by the looks of her. Also, she was very clumsy, always tripping over her own 2 feet. Finally, she didn't know the slightest thing about manners when eating a fancy dinner. She was a very big disgrace to Sir Peter.
I see. Well, thank you for joining us today.
It was my pleasure.
Welcome back to Fro News, and welcome back, Ella. Sorry you had to see your stepfamily that you dread so much.
I suppose it's alright. I have to face them sometime.
Okay, back on topic now. What would you consider some of your tests during your adventure to find Lucinda?
Well, I would definitely say that some of my first major challenges came from Hattie and Olive. Right as I got in the carriage to head off to finishing school, Hattie figured out that I had to obey, so she began to order me around. She made a very cruel order very soon after. She noticed my necklace and immediately demanded it from me. I tried to resist the command, but I couldn't. I gave in and was basically forced to hand it over. That made me very upset because that necklace was given to me from Mandy because my mother wanted me to have it.
I'm sorry to hear that. It must have been very hard to lose that necklace. Did you have any other tests?
Yes, I certainly did. I had many tests along the way, but another that stands out to me is finishing school. I was very upset when Father sent me there because I didn't want to leave Mandy in my home that I lived in for my entire life.
That must have been very hard. Why was finishing school a test for you?
Well, it was hard because Hattie and Olive were there to order me around and command me to do things. Also, I couldn't sew a stitch, sing anything, and I was extremely clumsy. Considering that there was a sewing class, a singing class, and a dancing class at school, I had some problems. All of my instructors were ashamed of me at first because I couldn't do a single thing.
That sounds awful. I'm sorry that finishing school was full of tests for you. From the stories I've heard about you, it seems that you first met Lucinda, the fairy that put you under the obedience curse, at a giant's wedding.
Yes, that's true. Fairies love weddings, so I had a hunch that I might see her there.
And what happened when you met her?
I didn't want Lucinda to leave when she found out who I was and what I wanted her to do for me. And I definitely didn't want Father to recognize me, so I pretended to be someone else. I'm very good with languages and accents, so I spoke Aorthian and adapted a new identity.
That's a good idea. Now, what do you think Lucinda would have done if she'd known it was you and that you wanted her to remove her gift?
I overheard her talking to a few other fairies, and they mentioned something about Lucinda turning people into squirrels. I'm sure with her temper, she would have done the same thing to me, if not something worse.
I'm so glad that you are clever enough to disguise yourself. Thank you. Was there any point on your journey that you would consider your biggest ordeal?
It's very hard to pick out only one point. I would say that my ordeal started when Mom Olga married Father and continued all the way until the first ball that Prince Char held.
What happened during that time?
Lucinda came to my father's wedding and gave them the gift of everlasting love. When Father left to trade, I was made a scullery maid in my own home by my stepfamily against my father and I's wishes. Then Olga and Olive found out about my obedience curse, so they started to order me to do things until I was exhausted, and then more. My only refuge during that time was Mandy and my letters to Char, who didn't know about my predicament.
That must have been a terrible time for you, being commanded at every moment.
It was.
After all the hard work and stress that you endured during your adventure, did you receive any type of reward?
I didn't get a medal or trophy or anything, but I did get to see Char again.
That's an excellent reward. How did you guys meet up?
He hosted 3 balls to find himself a wife. I didn't want to marry him, but I did want to see him again. Mandy helped me get ready in a nice dress. I also wore a mask for disguise. When he first saw me, he didn't recognize me. I made up a fake name and a fake story so he wouldn't know it was me. He really seemed to like me, even though I was in disguise. It was reward enough for me.
Wow, that's really neat. Ella, every hero has a road back. What happened during yours?
During the final ball, Hattie ripped my mask off because she was jealous that Char was dancing with me instead of her. She recognized me, and then Char realized it was me too.
What did he say when he saw you?
He didn't have time to say anything because I ran away. However, my slipper fell off, and he picked it up. He came to our house and tried it on Olive and Hattie, but it didn't fit. Then he slipped it onto my foot and it fit perfectly. He proclaimed that I was the one he wanted to marry.
I'm assuming that you said yes?
Actually, after a long internal debate with myself, I refused to marry him. When I yelled that I would not marry him and nobody could make me, I broke the curse.
After all those years, you finally broke it. But how did you come to marry him if you told him no?
After I broke the curse, I said that I would marry him. Before, I was worried that it was too dangerous for me to marry Shar since I was still cursed. But since I broke it, it would be safe for us to marry.
I'm so glad that everything worked out perfectly. Would you say that your adventure has changed you?
Definitely. Before going to finishing school and beginning my journey, I had to obey all orders, including ones that put me or others in danger. I hardly had any family that cared for me, and the one object that was most important to me had been taken away. Now I'm free to do whatever I wish. I have a loving family, and I no longer have to endure the torture my step-family had put me through.
That's amazing. Was there any specific lesson that you think you learned on this adventure?
I would say that I learned not to let anyone control me or tell me who I am.
That's great. Speaking of your stepfamily, how would you say your adventure affected them? Where are they now?
Well, Olive has married a widower who gave her unwavering attention. Hattie hadn't married, though she uses the connection that she has to me every moment that she can. And Mom Olga is still married to Father. I didn't invite my stepfamily to my wedding, but I did invite Father. However, the invitation came too late and he was unable to come.
How did it feel to finally finish your adventure and return back to your old life?
It felt great to finally be done with the curse and my horrible stepfamily. However, I really don't think that my life is the same. Shar and I married and had children. Mandy came with Shar and I, and she was our cook. She was also the children's grandmother.
How good of things to work out. Thank you for joining us today, Ella. See you next time.
Thank you.